My guest is a stand-up comedian from Seattle. He's one half of the Rain City Jerks podcast and a licensed massage therapist. I'm excited to welcome Jay Markowitz.
Hey, Adam. Great to be here.
Did I fuck up your name? Vitz?
So it's Markovitz.
Okay. I don't know why I know that.
It's a stage name anyway, so I don't really bristle that much at people getting it wrong.
I didn't know it was a stage name.
Yeah. So
what's your real?
My legal name is Andrew Jay Marks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I used to just go by Andrew Marks. That's a shitty stage name.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's really bad, really generic.
But it's more Jewish the way you made it, right?
Way more Jewish. Because like I realized like I don't play Jewish just by looking at me.
Yeah.
So I would tell Jewish jokes and people are like, is this guy an anti-Semite or just a self-hating Jew?
Yeah.
They didn't know, so they would tighten
half,
up.
Right?
Yeah, I'm half Jewish.
Okay.
But
what is the other half?
Just white.
Just white.
Just either English or Scottish or Irish, depending how drunk my grandpa was when he would tell the story.
Okay.
But I grew up around only Jews.
Really?
Yeah, I went to a Jewish preschool, Jewish kindergarten, Jewish
and this
school.
was in
Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a suburb called Overland Park. Was like the fourth richest county, Johnson County, in the country when I was growing up there.
Really?
So a ton of Jews. Yeah, people sleep on Overland Park, but like, yeah.
What was the major industry? Farming?
I don't know. Like Sprint moved their campus there.
Okay.
Applebee's had their corporate headquarters there.
Was it tax reasons, maybe?
I don't know, man. But all my friends, their dads were like doctors and lawyers, and yeah, they were doing good. And it was just like this super upper crust suburb, and then you would go 10 miles in either direction, and it was just like farmland.
Huh.
So
I've heard of Overland Park.
Yeah.
Why? Here's a question for you.
Shoot.
Since I have you and you're a Jew, why do you think
nervous.
so many like comedians are Jewish? Like, what do you think
I think that there is a certain, I'll say, trauma that's inflicted upon us by our parents, and the way that the Old Testament God is kind of beaten into us, that makes us see the world in a, kind of a funny way. We see the comedy in the tragedy that is just all around us.
Okay.
And we don't suffer it. We're like, oh well. And there's this, so there's the Torah, which is the Old Testament. And then there's a bunch of other books. And then in school, we had to learn, there were like 5 or 6 different major commentators. These medieval sages that would write pages and pages and treatises on the books of the Bible, and they would argue with each other. And we had to study all of these different commentators, and the way that they would go back and forth is pretty hilarious. Like, they would argue like, okay, so if you build a wall and a wall falls down and injures your neighbor, who is liable? Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, well, I think you're liable. But no, you're only liable in such and such way. So you're kind of like dissecting these things. And
that's where we got case law from.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of minutia that we're concerned with. And in a lot of cases, like in medieval Europe, we were the only people who were allowed to deal with this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, it was considered unchristian. Let the Jews handle the money and the law.
Huh.
So here we are.
God damn.
Yeah. So we're rich and neurotic.
Before I forget, if you are watching us on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button, the notifications.
It's easy.
Throw a comment in on why you think so many comedians are Jewish. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, any comments help us with the algorithm. Just do it.
But if we don't like it, we'll censor it. We run the media. It's fine. It's whatever you want to say. We can take it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Initially I thought it was trauma, but I guess like today, like, there's a lot of male Jewish comedians.
Sure.
And do you think it's partially has something to do with like expectations of family? And
it's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, like we're really expected to succeed. And, in my family, my brother, he's a doctor. And my sister, she's got a master's degree in psychology. And I dropped out of college to fucking do drugs and become a massage therapist. And yeah, it's like in every family, there's going to be someone who has all of those expectations heaped upon them, but all they want to do is fucking do drugs. And that was me. And it's like, you get kind of like, oh, okay, well, how am I going to like reconcile this failure? And
was it like you knew that you couldn't meet expectations? So it was sort of what's the point in trying?
So I was a really strong student and really, really smart and got great grades all through high school. But it was my mom kicking my ass to do that stuff.
Okay.
Like I knew that all I wanted to do was smoke weed and lift weights. And then as soon as I like, hey, it's
I never think of potheads being like bodybuilders.
I like to think myself as more of a meathead than a pothead.
Okay.
You've seen Dazed and Confused, right? Those guys were just like smoking weed and lifting weights, or American Beauty.
I just never had the motivation to do that when I was smoking weed. I just wanted to watch Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
When did you get into stand-up?
I got into stand-up would have been like 2012, 2013.
It's almost 10, I guess, 10
about
years
10
ago.
years ago. And, this is jumping all over. I've lived like 6 different lives. But I had moved to Atlanta to help my dad start this yogurt business. And after we kind of established ourselves in the market, I was the traveling yogurt salesman.
I don't know why it always makes me laugh when you say it's like yogurt business. Like was it Greek yogurt?
It was Greek yogurt.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad, he started this yogurt brand with only grass-fed milk. I don't know if you know much about the dairy industry, but most cows are fed on corn, which is not a cow's diet, and it changes the chemical properties of the milk.
I didn't know any of this, but
when they eat grass, the milk that they make, it's more easily digestible. It tastes better. It's got a very different mouthfeel. And
how much yogurt were you eating while doing this?
I would go through quarts a week.
Really?
Easy peasy, because I got it for free.
Yeah.
So
and it's healthy.
It's healthy.
It's good for weightlifting and bodybuilding.
And I was at the yogurt factory like some weeks for like 15 hours a day.
Okay.
So like I wasn't leaving. All I could do was eat yogurt.
So you just have the shits like crazy because it's a probiotic?
No, not really.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
you must have had like the best gut health ever, though.
Oh, super good.
Yeah.
But
What'd you put in it, though? Or do you just raw?
I mean, I mostly just ate plain, but we also had, so my dad, he's got a culinary background, so he made these dope flavors. We had like a black cherry with port wine. We had a mango pineapple habanero pepper yogurt. We had a coffee flavor.
So what was your day like? Did you wake up, eat yogurt, lunch yogurt?
So I would wake up at like usually on a work day 4 or 5 in the morning to get ready to do the farmers markets. And then I would go to the yogurt factory, load up vans with the yogurt coolers that I'd prepped the night before. On Saturday on our busy day, I would direct like 5 different teams of people to where they were going, and we would all leave. Then I'd drive out to the farmers market, set it up, pitch yogurt, and then, come back, unload, and have maybe a couple hours off to recover. And then at night, maybe I would have to like mix yogurt or pull a batch of yogurt out of our kettles. And then, the yogurt, it takes time to culture. You're starting the milk from a pH of about 7 and trying to get it down to 4.5 to acidify it into yogurt. And, sometimes it'd be ready at midnight. Sometimes it'd be ready at 2 in the morning.
Fuck that job, dude. Yeah, that sounds terrible.
I remember, and like,
were you making really good money though? Was that what was driving it?
I was making slightly better money than I had been making as a yoga teacher / dishwasher. And looking back, I was making like $8,000 a year. I can't believe how poor I was back then, God. And I was still putting away money and eating well. I lived with a girlfriend. We got food stamps. She worked at a grocery store. But yeah,
What was your dad doing though? Was he just kind of
using
you?
Well, no, he was using me, but it was also an opportunity for me. Because I dropped out
sounds like
of college.
how he got sold, how you got sold on it.
Well, I came down to visit, and he was like, Jay, I'd really love for you to work for my yogurt business. I impressed him because I cleaned his kitchen really well. He thought that I was fucking worthless at that point. Yeah, for the most part, I was. But I was a pro dishwasher at that point, and I just cleaned the shit out of his kitchen. And he's like, okay, well, this guy, he can work in a kitchen, and I can get him for much cheaper than I could for a regional sales manager. Mm-hmm. And that's what he was projecting me to do. He wasn't thinking, oh, this guy's going to work in the kitchen. He's going to be my guy to like drive to Chicago and pitch yogurt around. And, I'm in the family. He can trust me. Mm-hmm. And it's also an opportunity for me because I was like, wow, $30,000 a year. That's so much money. Mm-hmm. And, now I know it's not that much money.
Yeah, I guess in the South, it's more.
It's more, but it's
like
still
40.
not like...
It's not crazy
it's not
good.
great.
Not for those hours.
Not for those hours, but it's
Were you
better
doing
than,
anything besides... Like, so you're just working all day long?
I was working, I would date a little bit. I would do a lot of yoga. But, yeah, my life was the yogurt business. People ask me, like, oh, how did you like Atlanta? And it's like, I don't know, man. I was trained to a yogurt vat in Norcross.
The whole time? Did you... When you were on the road, though, were you... dating or like, because you said you had some ventures as a traveling salesman life is it's a lonely life.
It's a lonely life. I stayed in a lot of hotels and shitty like Craigslist illegal subleases.
Is it just running right now?
No, okay. I can't
as long as nothing's hanging out for the YouTube people.
You put that in the blooper reel.
Yeah.
Fathom and Friends Gone Wild.
Just a drip.
Yeah, I was doing some fucking, but I wasn't doing a ton of like, casual. That's actually how I got into stand-up. I'd written a little bit of material and like it came to me in like a fever dream one night when I came home from Greenville, South Carolina, and I was in Chicago, and I was like, oh, open mic, I'll check that out.
Where'd you go?
It's this place called Cole's Bar in Chicago.
Okay.
And they still have the open mic there on Wednesday nights. It starts at 10 and it'll run until like 2 a.m.
Dude,
Easy.
Chicago
they put up like
open
50
mics
people.
Are crazy.
It's pretty insane.
It's rough. It's like the worst night at the Ghost of Jaitai here. Just
multiply by 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can get up, I don't know, 5 times a night in Chicago
easy.
if you want to.
Yeah.
They're just all bad rooms.
They're all bad rooms. Everyone there is like a professional alcoholic, and you're getting bullied by improv kids.
That was the worst part. It's just so much like performance. The improv kids, like they go up there and it just is, you're sitting there watching like, they want to be an actor, but they also want to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't watch improv when I was in Chicago. I should have, but that's just not for me, man. I don't know. I should try it, I think.
I feel like their brains are wired differently.
Yeah,
they want to be happy. They want everyone to just have a happy, good time. And, I've laughed at improv. I've seen really good improv, and it's been great. And I'm like, wow, that person's really talented. Mm-hmm. But they're way less interested in, like, plumbing trauma for nuggets. Yeah.
I think stand-ups, they have to hate us, right?
I think we spend a lot more energy hating them just because we have so much more hate.
Yeah.
I think they're just like, oh, wow, the performing arts, they're great.
Yeah, they're like the Mormon approach. Yeah. Like anybody that shits on them, they're like, well, we just love what you're doing over there.
Yeah, exactly. And, maybe they'll have a negative experience where some comic, like, awkwardly tries to, like, shit on what they do. And they're like, oh, wow, that's they must be going through a really tough time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's called life.
Dude, I keep having a sneeze coming on, and I'm sorry.
Pause it. Go blow your nose.
Here, we'll keep it rolling. Can you tell people listening about Rain City Jerks?
Sure. Yeah. So me and another comedian, Jack Slattery, do a podcast called Rain City Jerks. Less an interview, more of a hangout. We've got some what would you say, arcane interests between us, and we spend a lot of time talking about that. We have guests on, usually Seattle comedians, talk about pinball, crossword puzzles, working out. Jack used to be a tugboat operator, so he's got some really good tugboat stories. It's weird. Like, I have a hard time telling any yogurt stories. Jack's got to tell more of those tugboat stories, man. They're hilarious.
Are they?
Really good, yeah.
I didn't know. I couldn't even remember. Wasn't that on the East Coast that he was doing that?
Yeah, he was doing it on the East Coast. I think he also did it in, like, California a little bit. And
you guys are... I didn't even know that you were living in Atlanta when you were doing that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Atlanta for like 2 years working in the factory and doing the farmers markets, and then it was like 5 years on the road full time.
Slanging yogurt.
Just slanging, you know. I was all over the South. I was all over the Midwest, and then I wanted out. I wanted out, but we just kept aggressively expanding.
$8,000 a year was just too enticing.
Too enticing.
So you got to Chicago to do stand-up, and how did you end up out here?
So I think I was in Chicago and the other Midwestern cities through most of 2013. I left Atlanta in January and didn't come back until like November. And I was just on the road that whole time, and I was burnt out, man. I was not staying in style. So I was like, okay, if we don't pick up this next big chunk of territory, I'm out. And my dad knew that. But then I get back and he's like, oh, we picked up 200 more stores.
Shit.
And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm in. And so I got my first crack of where I wanted to go. I got the first pick. So I picked Denver and then Seattle, Portland to do, you know, Denver's its own region basically. And then the Pacific Northwest region. And I was going out there to do yogurt, but I was also kind of like checking out where I would want to live. I have a lot of friends in Denver, but again, it's too sunny. The people are too happy there. I love the rain. And then I came out to Seattle, and I had friends from when I lived up in Bellingham, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll stick around here.
Yeah. And you were you doing stand-up on the road at that point, or had you just done mics? And
I was mostly just doing mics. Like, I did it in Chicago. I kind of was off and on with doing it frequently and making progress, but I was having a really good time doing stand-up in Chicago. I was having like my first little bump of jokes. I feel like in Chicago they liked way more gross, bro-y humor than anywhere else I've ever been, so that kind of played well to what I was doing. But then I got to Denver and I just ate shit.
Really?
Like, I was going out 4 or 5 nights a week. I don't think I had one good set in 3 months, and it just beat me down. And really changed my thinking about how funny I am. And I lost a lot of confidence there. And then I came out to Seattle, and that trend kind of continued. And I was trying to conform to what I thought kind of, at that point in the Seattle scene, there were a lot of woke gatekeepers in the open mic scene, and they were controlling a lot of the stage time. So I was like, oh, I need to write jokes that are like this, and they weren't funny to me, and I didn't believe in them. And I was still kind of finding out who I was in that city.
What year was that?
That would have been 2014.
All right.
And I was grinding really hard until 2016.
So who was around at that time, like, that I would maybe know?
That's still around now. Timmy Booth was around. He was still really funny. Do you know Natalie Holt? Yeah, Natalie Holt was a really big player. I always thought she was really funny. Pitti was around, Robert Pitti. That was kind of when he took over the Comedy Underground, kind of the tail end of when I was getting out of comedy for the first time. Do you know Mike Mazzotti? Yeah, you know Mike Mazzotti. Mike Mazzotti was big. Robbie was around. Jason McBride was around.
I didn't know they were around back then.
Oh, yeah. No, they've been around. Jason McBride kind of did the same thing I did. Like, when I started, people would be like, oh, do you know Jason McBride? He quit, but then he came back like a year after I started, and him and I were really good friends.
I saw him the other night. That dude is... I told him, like, dude, if you went to Tacoma, you would absolutely crush.
He's so funny.
He's very fucking funny. And he's actually, like... I think people, like, get labeled dumb shit.
Yeah.
But, like, he's a very nice person. Like,
absolutely.
every conversation I've had with him has been fucking... He and I met at outdoor comedy. Just
the Volunteer Park.
Not that one, but it was a different one. And like, it was like, what the fuck are we doing here? It was like 6 people outside in a shed and purely like...
Oh, I know that shed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just was ridiculous. But he's a great dude.
He's really smart, really friendly. And yeah.
The reason why I want to ask about like your starting, because you stopped. Like, how long did you stop for?
I stopped for like 5 years.
What was that like?
It was a real kick in the teeth when I stopped. It felt like I was really defeated. But
what drove you to stop?
I just wasn't having fun. Like, I was going out and spending 4, 5, 6 hours a night to try to like scrounge up stage time. I wasn't happy with what I was writing. I wasn't getting any bookings. I wasn't really making friends or like moving up socially in the scene. Mm-hmm. And right around that time, I was graduating massage school also. So I was kind of switching careers, and staying up that late didn't work with the new jobs that I was getting. So yeah, you know, it was maybe like a year and a half of just not having a good time. And I'm like, all right, I got to quit. Got to do it for my own health and other opportunities.
What was it like not doing it?
Oh, it felt great. And like, so
Fuck.
I was able to almost immediately replace it with another all-consuming hobby. I got really into tournament pinball. I basically jumped from comedy to pinball.
What the fuck what is that?
You know what pinball is?
It's just, no, like
Okay, yeah, you know what pinball is.
But what's tournament? Is it just high score based?
So in the same way that there's like comedy shows and open mics every night, there are pinball tournaments every night. So you go to a bar and there's software where you put in everybody's names and it like matches everybody up. So then me and you, we would have to go play Addams Family. Mm-hmm. And whoever won the Addams Family, we'd go tell the tournament director, hey, I won, Adam lost, and you would get a strike. And most tournaments, they work on a 3-strike basis. So you would keep getting to play, but if you lost 2 more, you're out of the tournament. Mm-hmm. And then the tournament just goes until there's 1 person left.
Is it just based off high score?
Yeah, whoever gets the higher score.
Did you ever have anybody, like, while you were starting to like, beat them, they, like, fuck with you while they're watching? Or?
Oh, no, people are super polite.
Really?
And friendly, yeah. Like, there's really very, very good sportsmanship. I was honestly one of the worst offenders of that kind of stuff. Dude, I'm fucking mad. Like, I would rage. Like, I would.
We did a show this week, and I think you were pissed off about one of the machines in the back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't pissed off about it. I just like the games are designed to make you lose. They're designed to take your money. So sometimes you'll lose the ball and it's your fault. Other times you'll lose the ball and it's just kind of like there's nothing you could have done about it.
Where it just comes straight down the middle.
Down the middle, you can usually save it. But if it goes side to side, you're pretty dead.
How do you save it when it's going down the middle?
Okay, so it's going down the middle, but usually it's not straight down the middle. Usually it'll be to the left or the right, and you do what's called a slap save. So I'm holding the machine, and instead of just pushing the flipper, I rear back and you spank the side of the machine while you hit the flipper, and it nudges the machine to the side enough so that the ball is brought closer to the flipper. So you know you're not going to get a good shot on it necessarily, but you'll save it. You'll save it exactly.
What isn't savable?
So sometimes, especially on older machines, they'll have a wider gap. Like it'll go. Some balls are straight down the middle. Mm-hmm. But then, sometimes it'll just kind of like bounce into the out lane or moonwalk into the out lane. And
what's the longest you've ever had a ball in play for?
I mean, I've played games that were like an hour and a half before.
And it's 3 balls?
You can get extra balls, but yeah, generally a 3-ball game.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's so I'll watch like the major pinball tournaments online, and like there's this organization called the IFPA, the International Flipper Pinball Association, and they have a whole like ranking system, and the top 50 are just killers.
What are they doing differently?
I mean, a lot of them are like under 20 years old, so they've just started from such a young age. They've got the neuroplasticity to kind of like learn how to do it. Shot accuracy is a big thing. Yeah, you know.
Are they like? Is there specific training they do off machines?
You just play.
Just like crazy. It's like the professional video game players.
Sure, exactly. And like, you know, you've got to have rule knowledge for every table. Like Addams Family plays different than Twilight Zone. So you're going to be shooting for different shots. But then there's a number of different flipper skills that you can do to kind of catch and corral the ball, different nudging techniques. It's maybe the dumbest hobby I've ever had by a long shot. And I was getting good. Like I was winning tournaments. I was probably in the top 20 players in the city, maybe top 50 players in the city.
When you walked into a pinball place, were like people like, oh shit, Jay's here?
People didn't want to get drawn against me.
Really?
No, I mean, I'm a hard out. You know, I would go to, there are people that I didn't want to play against. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't want to play against Sajel or Serge or John Saul. Oh, John Salzman's so good at pinball. He's fucking great.
I don't know any.
You don't know any of these people. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you just need to shout them out.
But then I was also like terrifying to play against because I would like scream and throw the machines around and
like what noise would you make? Like not direct, like just
I would scream fuck at the top of my lungs. Dude, you played video games growing up, yeah? Yeah, dude, I was a controller thrower. I was a wall puncher. I was a straight up Kyle.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't lose that intensity, and I've always been a sore loser. So, you know, I was getting better, and I was kind of learning to control it, but still, like, I just went to this dark place to play pinball, and...
It sounds more toxic than stand-up was in some ways.
Only, for me, it was. For most people, it's like a real haven for kind of miscreants and...
Well, I've seen you come into a bar and there's a machine there that like you haven't played.
Yeah.
And there's like this like trance that you go into where you're like, you start looking at it and it's like, there's no way you're not playing it. And
it only costs 50 cents, you know, exactly. It's not that much.
How much were you spending a week playing?
You know, maybe 15, 20 bucks.
That's not bad.
Not that much. And like when you first start playing, you go through quarters quick because you lose. But then once you get good, you start getting way more free games. And, you know, instead of your game times being like 5 minutes, you'll play like a 20-minute game. And yeah, that's much more economical.
For sure. And were you making money in the tournament?
Oh, yeah. No, I was making maybe like $80 to $150 a week playing tournaments. You know, there were a couple that I was generally in the top 3 winners circle. There were a couple where I couldn't really crack it because they had different machines and different regulars at those tournaments.
What's your all-time favorite game?
All-time favorite game? The new Godzilla machine is maybe the best pinball game ever made.
Really?
Yeah. So there's this player named Keith Elwin, considered the greatest of all time pinball player. And he recently started designing games as well. And he's made like 4 or 5 games now, and all of them are just beautiful. They completely change the meta of pinball design. And this new Godzilla one that he made is, you would have a very good time playing it. It really marries the gameplay of being good for just a casual player and being deep and challenging enough for like pro players. Yeah.
How so?
So the shots aren't too hard to hit. It's easy enough to kind of like get the game started and get into different game modes. It's not that complex. But then there's enough kind of like little tweaks and features that you would really have to study the game to learn how to like maximize it. Yeah.
So when you're playing though, what are you trying to do? I always am just trying to keep the ball alive.
Sure. Well, and that's where you start, just keeping the ball alive, and you're kind of flailing and maybe kind of aiming for things. So if I start a game of Godzilla, let's say this is going to be super autistic, I'm going to be trying to hit the left and right ramp to qualify my monster battle mode. I'm going to be trying to hit shots that will get me towards the main Godzilla multi-ball mode. I'm going to be trying to advance to like 3 or 4 different like late and mid game goals. I don't know. Have you ever played like Settlers of Catan or like super complex German board games?
No, I made fun of all my friends for doing that on this podcast, but I've
go.
heard good things.
Have you ever played like an RPG video game, like Final Fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
So you know how in Final Fantasy you're just trying to like, you know, in the beginning get your characters up a little bit, but then you have these other like mid and late game goals that you kind of know that you're aiming yourself at. You're not even Final Fantasy. Any game is like that. Pinball's like that too, and you just have to know like what shots you need to hit in what order to kind of go that direction. Mm-hmm. And every table has got different rules. And
where are the rules posted? Or is it just you figure it out as you're playing?
So when you step up to the game, usually if you look down, there will be a rule card. Mm-hmm. And you can just look at that, and that'll kind of give you a overview of what to shoot for. But then if you go on YouTube, there's, you know, like 15, 20 hour-long videos for basically every game ever made.
Damn.
That will teach you how to play it. And then you just got to be good enough at pinball to keep the ball alive long enough and hit the shots to do it.
So why did you get out of this to go back to stand-up?
Quarantine, man, the pandemic. I was really about to like make my move into the upper echelons of pinball, and I'd gotten my rage under control. Like I was playing a lot and not raging out, and that was the biggest goal for me, because when I played Lucid, I was fucking killer. Mm-hmm. But
what
then
was the trick to getting the rage under control?
I don't know. I think that I just kind of like did it enough times and was like, dude, cool down, don't.
Do you smoke before playing?
No, that
made it worse.
That makes it worse. Like sometimes I would do it recreationally, but never in a tournament setting.
Why? Just throws off your timing?
I don't play as good.
Yeah.
I don't play as well.
You don't smoke before sets, do you?
No. That's more like once I've got everything done for the day, I'll maybe smoke weed. But I like it less and less. Yeah. You know, my girlfriend loves to smoke a lot. Sometimes, you know, she'll be smoking and I'll have a puff. But yeah, you know, I felt like maybe I had to do it to de-stress or like escape from life when I was working shittier jobs. But my life now is so good. Mm-hmm. Like I don't need to escape from anything in my life now, which is great.
Yeah.
But anyways, pandemic hit and pinball died. Like all of the pinball bars closed down. The tournaments were all gone. The pinball scene was really COVID cautious as a whole.
I mean, you're touching everything with your hands.
Exactly. And you're hunching over someone's shoulder,
breathing,
waiting for them to lose so that you can play again. And that happened, and I kind of, you know, had been keeping a little notebook of material. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. You know, I still would think about jokes, and I started to kind of get confident in what I was...
Sneeze is good.
You nasal bastard.
I ate something before this and it went up my nose. Like, you ever have that happen?
Yeah.
And so it's just like I'm sorry, YouTube. I keep taking all the momentum away from what you're talking about. So you're coming back.
So I'm coming back. I was writing some good stuff, and yeah, you know, I just started hitting the mics again. I went to that same like shed tent mic for the first time, and you know, I felt good about my material, and people were laughing at it, and people who had never met me before wanted to be my friend, and people who hadn't seen me in a while were like, "Oh wow, you got better, man." And you know, one of my I don't know, guidelines or things I'll tell newer comics is like, don't tell jokes you don't believe in. And even if it's just like a premise or something, if you don't believe in it, why would you tell that joke if you don't believe in it? And that's, you know, I'm writing new material that I believe in, and it's hitting with people. And, you know, I've only been back a little over a year, but I've made more progress in that year than I made like the 2-3 years that I was open micing before.
It's been different since things opened back up.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Like there have been a bunch of people that have come out. I just feel like the whole scene is like there is somewhat of a divide, but there's people that are like supporting one another, and it's fun. I
feel like it's a lot healthier.
It's healthier. I have to imagine a storm is coming. Like it's just like the nature of those types of communities. It's such a strange thing, and eventually,
I feel like that happens a lot at like the lower level. Like people who need to create drama because they're not having any success. So that's kind of a way to like farm meaning, is to create drama. And, you know, people who just kind of want to be professional and write their jokes and aren't using it as like a clubhouse to get drunk or a place to like fuck other people. You know, they're just going to keep doing their thing. And yeah. I don't want to get involved with drama. Like it's seductive. You want to know it's like a car accident. You can't look away, but like the hours that you spend reading a 200 comment Facebook thread could be time that you spend doing anything else.
That's true.
Anything else is better than reading a 200 comment Facebook thread.
Just writing a joke, maybe.
Watching TV is better than that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I don't know. I do think there will always be that disconnect between people. I mean, you said it about people believing the jokes that they're saying. I think when a lot of people start, they're just saying crazy shit up there.
Sure.
And they don't realize that stuff can be hurtful to people and really have me. Like, I think a lot of that comes from just like, they're fucking around. They don't see themselves as like a working comic. So what does it matter what they say on stage? And in a lot of ways it doesn't, but at the same time, like there are people that hear those things and it hurts their feelings, and that's fucked up too. And then there is another crop of people that just don't want to hear certain people say certain things. Like they don't want to hear anything from this type of person. Which that's a problem too. Like
absolutely.
And I don't think that's going anywhere, dude. I think this has been that way since the beginning. I mean, I don't know how it was in the 80s and shit, but it seems like every 5 to 7 years there's this big kind of cancel movement or whatever, and it just swings back and forth.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know.
I kind of feel like as a society, I say this a lot, that we're almost in like a post-woke era. Like that raged really hard and people got really sucked into it. And like you said, it was like just the guillotine of cancel culture was really having a field day. And there were probably a lot of things that had been simmering under the surface that needed to come out for a while. Like inequalities and injustices that hadn't really been exposed to the light of day. And maybe it's good that people are more aware of that. And, you know, I don't believe that canceling is necessarily the best weapon to deal with that. But with that on people's minds, or with those issues more at the foreground, I think we move forward as a society, just having awareness. And now we're kind of going back the other way where people are like, okay, well, this has maybe gone a little too far in that direction, and that we'll still keep some of the lessons that we learned from those years, but maybe
Count Chocula's okay.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
I don't know.
That whole pantheon of
I didn't mean to spring this
horror-themed breakfast cereal mascots is incredibly diverse. You got Count Chocula, you got Boo Berry, Frankenberry, and there's two more. Do you know what the other two are?
No.
Yummy Mummy and Fruit Brute.
I have never heard of any of those.
I don't know. I just think it's great that like now gay cartoon characters can get better work than just doing breakfast cereal mascot stuff.
I was looking at the Captain Crunch box.
Yeah.
Because there's like the normal kind and the peanut butter kind and then the berry kind.
Oops, all berries.
Yeah, oops, all berries.
Yeah, that was on purpose. That's not a mistake.
Yeah, that's a fucking oops.
Fuck you.
I was driving by Burger King over here in Everett. You got to see the sign over here.
Okay.
It says, "Burgers are back." What the fuck were they selling before that? Just Kings? Like
Just
that,
Kings, yeah.
It's so stupid. Like
Their whole
I looked
business
at the
was
sign, I was
those-
like, what the fuck was that?
Paper crowns.
Oops, all berries.
Oops.
Yeah. It's like some dumbass kids looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They fucked it all. They only have berries.
I would love to see. This is kind of a pet project of mine that I've been working on for a while. A salt and vinegar Captain Crunch that would just destroy the roof of your mouth. It's got the razor sharp biscuits to shred it, and then just salt and vinegar.
You're just bleeding and fucking getting infected, basically.
No, yeah, it's accurately describes being in the Navy under Captain Crunch.
Have you brought that on stage?
A little bit.
Yeah, you should definitely fucking keep working that. Speaking of food,
Sure.
let's talk about Dahmer a little bit.
Oh, man.
I've been dialed into this series.
So I'm up to episode 7.
Damn, you got through a lot of those.
Yeah.
You,
I do my homework.
yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel so far?
So let me bring up my thoughts because I can't think them on my own.
And just a reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that fucking like button, subscribe, notifications bell, throw in a comment if you have some thoughts on the Dahmer docuseries.
I'm gonna go ahead and say spoiler alert for Dahmer. If you don't want to see what happens in Dahmer right now, then maybe skip forward 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fucking pay attention to this.
I got to tell you, I could barely watch it after the first episode. I thought the first episode was so bad.
Just the writing.
The writing was so like over the top, ham-fisted, scenery chewing. Like, it's like, dude, who is writing these characters?
I liked how it drew me in from the start. Like,
Sure.
just how it started with the actual crime rather than
Sure.
like this kid, sort of the timeline based approach. Like, I liked it was like, hey, this is what happened, then we're going backwards.
The
to look
nonlinear
at it.
storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
So I
That
watched
is the
this,
correct way
yeah.
to describe that rather than all of those words I just said.
Well, but you had a hand
I
gesture
had
with it,
hand
so that
gesture.
really hammers at home what you meant.
For all those people listening.
No, but the second episode, the nonlinear shift, that really got me, where they showed his kind of childhood, and it's like, oh, how was this monster made? And yeah, no, it's been pretty compelling. The next 5 episodes were mostly dealing with, the crimes and kind of, what would you say, like 17 to 31 years, like before he got caught. And
I had never heard about the organ thing.
Oh yeah, no, I knew
About the
most
sexual
of
attraction.
Yeah, well, that he wanted to basically fuck corpses and fetishized organs, and he was
They're shiny.
they're shiny, and he was trying to, like, what he was doing. He was working to build a shrine in his apartment to his murdered victims. So he was going to do 2 full skeletons on either side, a table with 7 skulls, and like incense and lighting, and he would have a throne where he would just sit in front of. They recovered diagrams that he'd drawn of that, and they're like, if you'd found me 6 months later, this is what you would have found in the apartment.
What was he gonna do?
Just sit there and feel powerful.
Like, feel all of them with him?
Something like that, yeah. But
What do you listen to when that's like you're just sitting in silence, or like, do you like Iron Maiden or something? Like, what do you fucking?
if we're gonna go by what this series does, it's probably like gay dance music.
Just remembering all, yeah.
Who
knew there was such a great club for that in Milwaukee? Like, that looked like a fantastic club.
So what I kind of thought watching that is that it's so easy to trick a guy with the promise of sex. Like, all of those guys were like, oh, I'm just going to go get laid.
Dude, have you seen the TikToks of the what's that floating in there?
No, I don't think so. Oh, of the drug?
Yeah. There's like all these TikToks of people like, hey, what's that flowing in there? There's like fucking Tide Pods in there.
This is just some laundry detergent or something. I don't know.
Yeah, just mix it around.
Mix it around. But no, like any woman could lure any number of men back to their apartment to like drug and kill them. Yeah. We are so easily manipulated when you get us by the dicks.
Oh, for sure.
Like that's
why
super duper easy for any serial killer.
Strippers make money.
Exactly.
It's that promise of like, oh, she likes me.
She likes me. She's gonna rub her body against me. Yeah, it's not even about like the nudity. It's about the filling a need for intimacy.
The movie choices he had.
Yeah.
He was watching Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
The contact thing. Was that real?
Yeah, that was real. He would watch Jedi and the whole Exorcist series, and he really strongly identified with the villains.
Yeah.
Because of how they had power and control over, the people around them. And it's easy to see, like, from the movie how he didn't have any control in his life, and he just didn't want people to leave him, and he wanted to have control. And then he also had, like, the necrophilia, which...
Did he sleep with them when they were awake?
So I read some interviews with him, and what he said is his preferred choice of partner would be a comatose man. Like, dead wasn't ideal. Like he said, in 80% of cases, he would rather just sleep with someone who just couldn't move or couldn't fight back.
Huh.
And, he just ended up killing them. And then there was the whole organ harvesting thing.
The John Wayne Gacy part?
No, I didn't get to that. I know a little bit about John Wayne Gacy, though.
I don't know anything about him besides that, like, he was a clown.
Killer clown,
It goes into that later. Like, I don't know if he was inspired or influenced by Dahmer, but what the fuck was his deal?
I guess I got to wait for that docuseries to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had something like, I think, 30 people stuffed under the crawl space in his house.
Jesus. But did he eat them?
I don't think he ate them.
What was his motivation?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
Why dress as a clown? Because he was a clown?
We can look it up right now and talk about it.
I think I saw something about this. He was like a really esteemed member of
the clown community.
That and like a local Eagles club or type thing.
Yeah.
And he had a big reputation for just being like a community guy, but then he also did clown stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that life is very strange.
That was kind of right when clowns became scary. Because I remember being like up to maybe 10 years old, and it was like, oh, clowns, great. But then sometime in like the late 90s, it was like, oh, clowns are fucking, like everyone started being afraid of clowns.
I just don't understand what the fuck, what does a clown do?
There's different kind of clowns.
Well, yeah, those.
Well, there's like a circus clown. And then, you do the kind of performing and circus art. So you'll do like juggling, you'll do some light acrobatics, and humorous antics. And then there's like French clowns.
But is their purpose to make you laugh or to entertain you or to like, it's like this weird cross art of being like, it's not actually funny.
It's more entertaining.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times you won't see a clown alone. A clown will be like a part of a troupe of entertainers.
Yes.
So it's like, you've got the clown, you've got the acrobat, you've got the lion tamer, you've got the freak
bearded
show.
Lady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that still happening? Has there been a cancel of the bearded lady? Like, is that?
I feel like it's just been like a rebranding of the bearded lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's just on the LGBT spectrum.
They must not be making as much money.
It's just got to pivot your brand.
Shit.
Now you're an Instagram influencer.
Yeah. So the clown shit, I just don't. the more I think about it, I don't understand. They're part entertainer, part comedian, part.
I've never seen a clown tell jokes. They more play tricks. Have you ever been to Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah.
So you saw the clowns there, yeah?
I saw the crying baby.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? It was what Cirque was it? It wasn't Michael Jackson music. It was something else, but
I don't know. They do. I would say that like they're more in the vein of like sketch and improv comedy.
Okay.
Because no, they're not standing up there telling jokes. They're not doing stand-up comedy, but they're getting themselves into humorous situations where, you know, humorously bad things happen to them, or they can play some sort of a generally good-natured trick on a person to amuse other people.
Yeah. It's like teasing.
It's a lot of physical comedy.
Yeah.
Like that's really what they excel at more than, you know, we do like zero physical comedy, you know, maybe an act out, but they're like falling on their ass or like, you know, a lot of pratfalling.
I want to watch more clowns now. Because there are some clowns that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But then there are other ones where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it just chimo every time. I'm like, what the fuck? Why would somebody want to do this? It doesn't make sense.
Maybe expand your definition of what clowning is. So like the Three Stooges, they're basically doing clown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Steve Martin does a lot of clowning in his acts.
Andrew Frank, it could be argued, does a lot of clowning.
Sure. Yeah.
And I like it. I think it's enjoyable to watch and entertaining for sure, but it just like tradition. I've been at like a birthday party or something and there's doing the balloon animals and shit. And like, what is this? Like it's like a children's book for, I don't have the right words for it.
A children's birthday clown is a different thing. Like the antics of a children's birthday clown aren't going to entertain you.
So it's like looking at a comic and being like, the guy that plays corporates is totally different than...
Yeah, exactly. Or someone who like is going to go and, tell jokes for corporate. He's doing a different thing. But there, like you said, there's clowns where you're like, oh, that's cool. But if you were like 5 years old, somebody making a balloon animal or a balloon hat and sword and giving it to you, you'd be like, wow, that's awesome. Or like juggling or like sideshow magic.
Juggling, but there are jugglers. Like why do we have this one like utility knife person that does all of the things that everyone does already well, and they just do a little bit of it all?
Because we need more than like the best guy.
We need someone like to fill in all the gaps.
If you want to be like a world champion juggler, you have to do that to the exception of everything else to be that good at juggling. You've seen those champion jugglers, yeah? It's fucking amazing. Yeah. But then, you know, if you're going to be a clown, you need to be able to be entertaining in a lot of different situations. Like maybe your goal is to like be a circus clown. So you've got to do circus arts and juggling and unicycle and then also be funny. But then that's not paying the bills. So you got to do some birthday work on the side. And so, you're mostly doing balloon animals and kind of like shit for kids. You know, you got to be versatile.
It is a ridiculous life, the clown life.
Yeah, I bet it's a hard life.
Let's circle back on Dahmer for a second.
Sure.
Because we got to wrap up here in a sec.
Yeah.
Coming close on time. You haven't seen the end of it. What are your takeaways, though, so far?
That if he had grown up now, he would have been able to explore his repulsive sexuality on the internet in a safe way and found a community of people who...
On Reddit.
Yeah. He would have been able to, like, get some support as opposed to just, like, mulling around inside of his head until he had to kill and eat people. And just, like, seeing him... be weird and gay in a time and place where like nobody would even address it. Like there was a scene with his dad and a couple scenes with the cops where like, you know, just the prospect of gay stuff shook them off the trail. Like if they would have asked one more question, they would have like discovered what was going on and stopped him. But then he's like, oh, it's gay stuff. And they're like, oh, gay stuff. We're out of here.
Well, yeah.
See you later.
They're like, we're not going to catch anything.
Yeah.
Like it was just AIDS and people being homophobic.
Sure.
And I mean, those bathhouse scenes though were
pretty fun.
There was a lot happening.
A lot going on.
Yeah. Which, great. I mean, to each their own. But like, it was just, I agree with you 100%. I don't know necessarily if even with the internet it would stop it.
Sure.
But I mean, just such a weird fucking series, dude.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that they talk about meat.
Yeah.
And the smell of it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
He uses that rotten meat excuse.
Bad meat.
I'm 7 episodes in, and he's still blaming it on those pork chops.
Did he bring out the sandwich yet?
He brought out the sandwich, yeah.
Just that pulled pork.
Pulled pork, man.
Fucking crazy.
No, the oceanic cannibals, they would call humans long pigs because we taste like pork.
Where is that?
Oceania, it's like the islands around Australia.
And they were cannibals there?
Yeah, there were some cannibals. It wasn't, you know, all cannibals, but there were cannibalistic tribes.
God damn.
And yeah, they called human meat long pig.
Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on. We bounced around a bunch, but it was fun. I'm sorry I don't know what the fuck happened with my sinuses here in the past hour, but it's been entertaining, I'm sure.
Now you can enjoy it for the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. One last time, where can people find all your stuff on
you can
social?
check out the Rain City Jerks podcast. Check out my Instagram. I post a lot of weird memes and stories at Slop the Trough. Slop the Trough. And yeah, that's it. I should be better about posting on social media, but it's like not real to me.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but
pain in the ass, but you got to do it.
Thank you to everybody that is
thank you
following
all.
us there.
This is very real.
Yeah. If you did enjoy this episode, make sure to rate and review us. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss our upcoming content. And as always, follow us on Instagram at FNFPod. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. Welcome to my wave pool, my wave pool. 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 Welcome to my wave pool.